The email hit my inbox at 4:17 p.m. on a Friday. Classic corporate coward timing gives them just enough runway to bolt for their Tesla before you can process what just happened. Subject line, Compensation Review Q3 Adjustment. I'm Warren Hayes, 49 years old, and I've been the Senior Contracts and IP Analyst at StreamCore Technologies for the last 6 years. That means I'm the guy who reads the 400-page documents that the MBA boys sign without looking. I'm the one making sure we don't accidentally sell our source code to some shell company in the Caymans. Think of me as the firewall between our executives and financial suicide. I didn't open the email right away. Let it sit there like a ticking bomb in my Outlook. Took a sip of lukewarm coffee and looked around StreamCore's open office. Sales team celebrating some deal with high fives. Marketing interns filming TikTok videos about hustle culture. Whole place smelled like overpriced coffee and desperation. Finally clicked it. Hi Warren, thanks for your patience on the compensation adjustment request. We've reviewed your performance metrics, which remain excellent. However, due to current reallocation of Q3 liquidity into strategic acquisition channels, your raise got lost in legal approvals. We simply don't have the authorization pathway to push it through this cycle. Let's revisit next quarter. Best, Travis Wheeler, HR business partner, got lost in legal. I adjusted my collar Old Navy habit when I need to think clearly and stared at that phrase. It was almost insulting in its laziness. I'm legal. Well, at least the backbone of it. Our general counsel, Gareth Mills, spends most his time on the golf course asking me how to convert PDFs. This was the third year running. 2021, pandemic uncertainty. 2022, market volatility. 2023, got lost in legal. Meanwhile, Travis had just approved a $25,000 retention bonus for some junior developer who'd crashed our production server twice. I knew because I processed the paperwork. I didn't scream or type a furious reply. Instead, something cold and methodical clicked into place. Time to run diagnostics on this company's network architecture. They thought I was just office furniture. A reliable workstation that processes contracts and never complains. They figured because I didn't wear Patagonia vests or shout, "Let's go," when closing tickets, I had no leverage. They were wrong. I looked at that sales team again, still celebrating. The Vanguard account, our crown jewel, an $80 million defense logistics partnership over 5 years. The deal that was going to make StreamCore a unicorn, the contract that paid for our CEO's glass office, it was also a contract I'd written. Not the glossy pitch deck or the handshake ceremony. I wrote the actual legal framework. The master service agreement, the IP protection schedules, the 67-page addendum on performance royalties. I remembered that addendum clearly, wrote it back in 2019 when we were cash poor and desperate. Vanguard wanted equity up front, but we couldn't afford it. So I crafted this performance-based royalty trigger, complex stuff buried in legal language that would make your eyes bleed. Stood up, knees popping, reminder that I'm not 25 anymore. Walked past the ping pong table where some account exec was banking shots. "Hey Warren, smile, it's Friday." Gave him a thin smile. "Have a great weekend, Josh." Walked to our secure file room. Most documents are digital now, but original contracts with wet signatures live in the fireproof safe. I had the combination. I'm the only one who ever goes in there. Pulled out the Vanguard binder, 3 inches thick, navy blue, flipped to page 51, clause 12D, ran my finger over the text. In the event that licensor achieves 4 consecutive quarters of 99.98% system uptime while processing client data volumes exceeding 10 terabytes monthly, licensor acknowledges that performance royalties of 0.4% gross contract value shall be paid to the designated IP architect within 30 days of milestone achievement, unless waived in writing by said architect. Check the signature page, CEO Brandon Steele's signature. Vanguard CEO, and at the bottom, IP architect, lead drafter Warren Hayes. I closed the binder. The silence in that file room was heavy with potential energy. "Got lost in legal," I whispered. Spent the weekend in my apartment. Modest place since the divorce, but quiet. No ping pong tables, just decent coffee and my Old Navy manuals. I had the contract. Now I needed the performance data. Clause 12D was dormant until triggered by specific metrics. If we sucked, the clause meant nothing. If we performed exceptionally well, it woke up and demanded payment. Logged into our admin dashboard. My access level is basically root. CTO gave me full warehouse access 5 years ago and probably forgot. Pulled the uptime reports for 2023, Q1 99.991%, Q2 99.995%, Q3 99.988%, Q4 99.992%. All 4 quarters above the 99.98% threshold. Data volume, 15 TB, 18 TB, 22 TB, 25 TB monthly averages. way over the 10 TB requirement. I sat back, monitor light reflecting off my glasses. The math was simple, but the implications were staggering. 0.4% of $80 million. That's 320,000 base royalty, plus late payment penalties, plus accrued interest over 18 months. We were looking at around $415,000 total. But it wasn't just the money, it was the structure. I'd written Clause 12D as a poison pill back when we were vulnerable to acquisition attempts. It was designed to make our IP expensive if someone tried to steal it. In their arrogance, the current executive team, most hired after I wrote this contract, had never bothered auditing our legacy agreements. Sunday evening, I sat on my small balcony with a beer, watching California traffic flow past. Thought about Travis and his got lost in legal email. He'd tried to save maybe $15,000 by denying my raise. Instead, he'd forced me to audit my own contractual worth. I didn't call a lawyer yet. First, I called someone who'd appreciate the technical elegance of this situation, the opposing counsel. Roland Pierce answered on the second ring. General counsel for Vanguard Defense, former Navy J, guy who'd negotiated contracts for defense contractors that make StreamCorps look like a lemonade stand. Warren. His voice was gravel and expensive whiskey. Sunday night, either your servers are down or you're calling in a favor. Neither, Roland. I'm doing some system maintenance reviewing that MSA we executed back in 2019. Specifically, the performance addendum. Long pause. I could hear him shifting in his leather chair. Clause 12D, he knew, of course he knew. Good lawyers flag dangerous clauses for their clients. He'd probably laughed when we signed it, knowing it could bite us later. Clause 12D, I confirmed, seems my company overlooked the notification requirements. The milestones were met and they haven't paid you.
Roland's voice dropped an octave. Not pity, predatory interest, not a dime.
In fact, just got denied a cost of living adjustment. Roland laughed, a dry sound like paper shredding. Warren, that's extremely negligent of them. If they're in breach of payment terms to the IP architect, that compromises our vendor compliance standards. Technically, StreamCorps is operating our systems without valid licensing right now. Technically, I agreed. Thought you should know before anything gets filed. Lunch? Tomorrow. That place downtown with the terrible lighting but excellent steaks. Monday arrived with its usual caffeine-fueled chaos. Marketing arguing about font choices, sales ringing cowbells for $500 subscriptions. Then Gareth Mills called me into his office at 9:30. Warren, Vanguard sent some formal complaint about an IP audit. Clause 12D sounds like legacy contract nonsense. Can you draft a standard compliance response? Don't spend too much time on it. I need you focused on the merger due diligence. I stared at him. He was asking me to investigate my own unpaid royalties. Sure thing, Gareth. I'll pull the original files and cross-reference with our performance logs. Might take a few days to verify specific language. Take your time, he replied, already turning back to his phone. Take my time. I wasn't taking my time. I was running down the clock. Roland's audit request demanded response within 72 hours. Missed that deadline, and Vanguard reserved the right to suspend payments pending investigation. Tuesday and Wednesday passed in surreal normalcy. Sat in meetings where Brandon Steele talked about our record-breaking uptime. We're unstoppable. He cheered, fist-pumping at his own slides. Vanguard is thrilled with our performance. They were thrilled with the performance. Less thrilled that we were stealing from the architect of that performance. Thursday 5 p.m., the deadline passed. I didn't send the compliance letter. Technically, I was waiting for executive sign-off on my draft, which I hadn't written. Friday morning, emergency all-hands meeting. Mandatory attendance. Conference room A. We gathered in our glass-walled disruption chamber, uncomfortable chairs, $20,000 espresso machine humming in the corner. Chase Whitfield, our CFO, stood at the head of the table looking like he'd seen a ghost. Okay team, Chase said, voice shaky. Vanguard payments are delayed this month. Accounts receivable shows the wire transfer is pending some kind of audit. Anyone know why? Kevin Foster piped up, smart kid, junior analyst, too smart for his own good sometimes. Actually, I was reviewing liability reports yesterday. There's a flagged contingent liability in our system. Something about performance royalties, Clause 12D, it's accruing at like 0.4% of gross contract value. The room went dead quiet.
Royalties? Chase frowned. We don't pay royalties. We're a say-as-is platform, not a record label.
It's in the legacy contract base. Kevin persisted. The system flagged it automatically because our uptime metrics exceeded the trigger thresholds. Chase looked at Gareth. What the hell is Kevin talking about? Gareth looked blank. Probably some old boilerplate. Ignore it. I can't ignore a flagged liability, sir. If auditors see this, delete the flag, Chase snapped. Reclassify as system error. We're trying to scale here, Kevin. Stop looking for problems. I watched Kevin's face fall. Kid was just doing his job. I caught his eye and gave him a slight nod. Smart kid typed the deletion command, but I knew he'd document everything. They just committed financial fraud. Willful suppression of known liability in front of witnesses. I quietly noted the time, 10:14 a.m. Warren, Chase turned to me suddenly. You handle IP stuff. We don't owe anyone royalties. Right, this was the moment I could lie and protect myself temporarily, or tell the truth in a way they wouldn't hear. The contract language is very specific. Chase Clause 12D exists. It was signed by the previous executive team. Whether you choose to acknowledge the liability is an accounting decision, not a contractual one. See, Chase said, turning back to the room. Accounting decision, and I've decided it's zero. He heard you can decide. He didn't hear you're breaking federal law. After the meeting, Kevin messaged me privately. That clause had your name on the draft log. You wrote it, didn't you? Kid was sharp. I hesitated. Didn't want him going down with the ship. Kevin, if I were you, I'd email Chase confirming his instruction to delete that flag. BCC your personal account. Is it that bad? Do it now. Smart kid. 10 minutes later, I got a BCC on his email to Chase. Per our meeting, I have removed the liability flag as instructed. That weekend felt like holding my breath underwater. I spent Saturday with my employment attorney, Elena Rodriguez, sharp woman who ate corporate lawyers for breakfast out of a strip mall office. Laid out the whole thing. The binder, the emails, the got lost in legal rejection. The timeline of ignored Vanguard notices. My notes from the meeting where Chase ordered Kevin to commit fraud. Elena read through everything with mechanical precision. Finally looked up over her glasses. They're spectacularly stupid. They're arrogant, I corrected. They think rules are suggestions. Elena smiled, revealing very white, very sharp teeth. Rules are about to become very expensive for them. Monday morning, 8:45 a.m. Monthly all-hands meeting where Brandon Steele stands on an actual stage. Yes, we have a stage in our break room and tells us how we're changing the world. This quarter is looking incredible. Brandon shouted into his wireless mic, Vanguard is expanding. We're looking at 25% growth trajectory. I stood in the back, near the exit, checked my watch. 8:52 a.m. Double doors opened. 2 men in dark suits walked in. Federal court formal, not tech casual. Behind them, Roland Pierce. Room went quiet. Ripples of confusion from back to front. Brandon stopped mid-sentence. Can I help you, gentlemen? Roland walked straight to the stage. Didn't look at the crowd, looked at Brandon. Brandon Steele, yeah. Who are you? One suit stepped forward, handed Brandon a thick stack of papers. You're being served. Civil lawsuit for breach of contract, IP theft, and willful non-compliance with vendor agreements. Plaintiff, Vanguard Defense Systems. Dead silence. You could hear the espresso machine hissing. What is this? Brandon laughed nervously. Is this a prank? Gareth pushed through the crowd. Roland. What the hell, you had a deadline. Roland cut him off. It expired Thursday. You failed to respond to formal audit requirements. Per Clause 12D and Section 9 of the MSA, Vanguard is terminating the service agreement for cause and seeking damages for unauthorized IP usage. Terminating? Brandon's face went white. You can't terminate. That's an $80 million contract. Was an $80 million contract. Now it's a $95 million lawsuit for breach and IP theft. Chase squeaked from the side. IP theft. You suppressed known liabilities regarding your IP architect's contractual royalties, Roland said, eyes scanning the room until they found me. Your license to use this software is revoked, unless you can prove you've settled outstanding debts to the IP owner. Brandon flipped through the papers. IP owner? We own the IP. Read page 51. Roland said coldly. Gareth grabbed the papers. Scanned them. I saw the moment it hit him. Hands started shaking, paper rattling audibly. The raise, Gareth whispered. The cost of living adjustment. He looked up, looked at the back of the room, looked at me. Every head turned. 200 people followed his gaze to where I stood by the exit. I didn't shrink. Walked forward. Crowd parted. Walked right up to the stage. Warren, Brandon asked, voice shaking. What's going on? I think I said. Voice calm and clear. My raise just got found in legal. Pulled an envelope from my jacket. Elena's letter of representation and whistleblower protection, handed it to Gareth. This belongs to you. Turned to Roland conference room. After you, Mr. Hayes. 10 minutes later, boardroom showdown, me and Roland on one side, Brandon, Chase, and Gareth on the other. Heavy silence and heavier implications. Warren, we can fix this, Brandon pleaded. Retroactive raise, 10%, 15%, I laughed, genuine laugh. Brandon, we're past percentage points. We're talking about federal contract law. It's sabotage, Chase yelled, sweating. You hid this intentionally. I sent Gareth an email Tuesday, I said quietly. Subject, Vanguard compliance inquiry. You told me to handle it myself. You didn't read it. Gareth opened his mouth, closed it. He knew I had the email trail. Here's reality, Roland said, leaning forward. Streamcore owes Mr. Hayes approximately $320,000 in base performance royalties, plus $50,000 in late payment penalties, plus $25,000 in accrued interest, plus $20,000 in legal fees. Total $415,000 because you instructed staff to delete financial liability flags. Yes, we know about Friday's meeting. You're looking at personal liability for the officers involved. Chase went pale. Kevin's a smart kid, I said. He documented everything. What do you want? Brandon asked. Defeated, I slid a term sheet across the table. Elena had helped me draft it over the weekend. 1. Immediate payment of back royalties and fees. $415,000 total. 2. Formal apology for administrative errors. 3. Reinstatement of royalty clause with penalty multipliers for future delays. 4. Promotion to Director of Contract Compliance reporting directly to the board. And one more thing I added. Full audit authority over executive expenses. I want to review every receipt, every trip, every client dinner. Make sure we're compliant with vendor ethics standards. Chase's eyes widened. He knew what was in those expense reports. You can't then Roland files the full lawsuit, I said simply. Discovery process finds everything anyway. Your choice, internal audit by me or federal audit by the court. Brandon slumped, looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in 6 years. Didn't see the quiet guy in rumpled shirts anymore, saw the person holding his company's life in their hands. Fine, will sign. The wire transfer hit my account Wednesday, $415,000. I stared at the number on my banking app, looked like a phone number, looked like freedom, but money was just the beginning. Real payment was the fear. Changes started immediately. Brandon stepped back to advisory role. Board forced him out after they heard about the near miss. Chase decided to pursue other opportunities after my first expense audit turned up some interesting consulting fees paid to his brother-in-law. Gareth stayed but broken, sits in his office actually reading contracts now, nods respectfully when he sees me in the hallway. I got the corner office with the bay view, replaced the hustle harder neon with tasteful abstract art. My new title, Director of Strategic Compliance and IP Governance. Hired Kevin as my senior analyst. We have strict policies now. Read everything, flag everything. Never ignore red cells in spreadsheets. Company culture shifted too. Ping pong table went to the basement. Sales bros learned to knock before entering my office. When someone says Warren needs to sign off on this, people check their paperwork twice. Vanguard stayed. Roland and I have lunch monthly now. Don't talk business much. Wine, travel, the eternal stupidity of people who think they can outsmart fine print. 6 months later, got an email from Travis in HR. Subject, annual review compensation adjustment. Hi Warren, your new compensation package has been processed and approved by the board. No issues this time. Best Travis, I smiled, took a sip of my coffee, the expensive imported stuff I expense to the company now. Hit reply, thanks Travis. Make sure you file it correctly this time. We wouldn't want it to get lost in legal again. The settlement amount broke down exactly as Elena had calculated. Base royalty of $320,000 from the 0.4% clause, late payment penalties of $50,000 for missing the 30-day notification requirement, accrued interest of $25,000 over 18 months, legal fees of $20,000, total $415,000, every penny justified and documented. But the real victory wasn't financial. It was systemic. The company learned to read what they sign. They learned that experience matters. They learned that the quiet guy who actually knows how things work isn't disposable furniture. 3 months into my new role, I discovered Chase had been billing personal vacations to client development for 2 years. Total fraud, $85,000. The board didn't just fire him, they pressed criminal charges. Found out Brandon had used company funds to pay for his kids' private school tuition. Called it educational consulting. Another $45,000 in misappropriated funds. Gareth, to his credit, came clean about his golf expenses without being asked. Repaid $12,000 to the company and kept his job. The junior developer who got that $25,000 retention bonus turned out to be Chase's nephew. Kid couldn't code his way out of a paper bag. We quietly moved him to documentation where he can't break anything important. Kevin got promoted to senior analyst with a 40% raise. Kid earned it. He's the one who flagged the liability in the first place, and he had the backbone to document everything when Chase ordered him to delete it. Elena Rodriguez became our external counsel for employment law. She's expensive, but worth every penny. Having her on retainer sends a message. We take compliance seriously now, my ex-wife called when the settlement hit the news. Tech blogs love a good revenge story. She'd seen the articles about the contract analyst who triggered a $95 million lawsuit over a denied raise. Warren, she said, I always told you that attention to detail would pay off someday. She wasn't wrong. 22 years of marriage, she watched me read every manual, every warranty, every contract. Used to joke that I'd raid the phone book if someone handed it to me. Never thought it would save a career. My teenagers are impressed. Dad went from boring contract guy to corporate justice warrior in their eyes. My daughter wants to study law now, says she wants to fight the system like Dad did. The irony isn't lost on me. I didn't fight the system, I used the system. I used their own contract against them, used their own negligence as leverage, used their own arrogance as ammunition. StreamCore is a different company now, still growing, still profitable, but with actual oversight. Board meetings include legal review of all major decisions. Executive expenses require 3 approvals. Contract modifications need my signature. Travis Wheeler learned his lesson too. Every compensation adjustment gets documented properly now. No more got lost in legal excuses. No more arbitrary denials based on budget convenience. The Vanguard relationship is stronger than ever. Roland told me their CEO was impressed by how we handled the situation, showed we could police ourselves, fix problems, maintain standards. They signed a 5-year extension worth $120 million. That extension included a new performance clause. If we maintain 99.99% uptime for 6 consecutive quarters, I get another royalty payment. This time it's written in plain English, highlighted in yellow, with my signature required for any modifications. Roland laughed when he saw it. Think they learned their lesson. I think they learned to read what they sign, I replied. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Travis had just approved my raise. If he'd treated a $15,000 adjustment as routine compensation management instead of an inconvenience to be dismissed. The company would have saved $415,000 in settlement costs, saved millions in legal fees and executive turnover, saved their reputation in tech blogs and industry publications. All because someone thought got lost in legal was an acceptable excuse for not doing their job. Look, if you're reading this and you've ever been told your raise got lost somewhere in the corporate machine, do yourself a favor, read your contracts, all of them. Every page, every clause, every addendum, know what you signed, know what they signed, know what they owe you. The system isn't rigged against you. Most of the time, they just assume you won't read the fine print. They count on your compliance, your politeness, your willingness to wait until next quarter. Don't wait. The leverage you need might already be sitting in a filing cabinet, waiting for someone smart enough to find it. Experience matters. Competence matters. Reading the manual matters, and sometimes, just sometimes, the quiet guy who actually knows how things work gets the last word.